Good morning, everyone. My name is Kasia Wyszyński. I'm a physical therapist and Feldenkrais practitioner for over 20 years. And I'm also a solvents and glue, JKA solvents and glue teacher. And that's what we're going to do today. I want to welcome you all to my morning routine. So idea for this class for me was that I actually use these movements that we're going to slowly explore every morning. And they've made a huge difference for me in my health, and I hope to share it with you. So what is solvents and glue? You can read more about it on our website. I just want to give you a little outline. So solvents and glue is the movement system. It's a very, very generative movement system. You can begin to generate ideas about how to use the movements for yourself, for your own benefit, in the context of moving your body in gravity. It was developed by Jeremy Krauss. JKA stands for Jeremy Krauss approach. He is one of the students of Moshe Feldenkrais and very, very long time Feldenkrais Method trainer. So you could think of this solvents and glue system as something that grew out of Feldenkrais Method and the understanding and methodology of Moshe and how he developed his approach. Jeremy brought these movements, put it in the context of standing, and included, for me, for my understanding, he put muscles on the map of working in this way. So, and systematized it in some way. Okay, so more about it. I'm happy to talk more, but I want to be mindful of our time. The method that we're going to use, it's the method of experiential learning, which is exactly what Feldenkrais method uses. We're going to make experiments in certain context of how our body is moving. So briefly, I'm sure you've heard the idea, body movements. We talk about skeleton. When we talk about movements, we talk about joints. We talk about muscles and nervous system, right? That puts it all together. And of course, there is environment, which for our purposes, we'll look at standing, being in gravity. Also, there's floor, there's what we have on our shoes, right? Which we cannot really manipulate too much. I mean, we can. But I like to think about this metaphor that I learned from a student in my training. If you think of our body as a machine, as a car, for example, and you have many, many different parts working as the machine is doing what it needs to do, right? In this class, we're going to look at different parts, different elements of how we're moving in gravity, and we'll kind of use our ability to focus, to bring the attention to these elements, and see how they come into play of movement of entire body. Okay, there's build-up in this method, so we're going to start and gradually, systematically move along different elements. There's progression, right? So we will kind of start and kind of develop each element a little bit more. What are elements? If you think of bending the elbow, right? That could be an element. Using the belly muscles, for example, it's an element, right? And we can't go through all of them, but we will in this class. My intention is to kind of give you an idea of how some important elements come into play when we talk about standing and moving. The context for us will be standing in two different positions, standing symmetrically with your feet parallel and standing in the asymmetrical position in kind of a split stance, right? So the class is all in standing. If you have trouble with balancing, have a chair nearby, right? Just for your own comfort. Okay, so today's class, today's topic is we'll look at our ankles. Our ankles are a very, very important element when it comes to being in gravity, standing, walking. And it's also the element that if you improve it, you make a huge difference in just everyday walking and all the other things that you do with your body. So, three things, right? Our class, the movements I will propose, they're not about increasing range of motion. So please don't push yourself, don't try and move more. When it comes, for example, to walking, right, we use very, very small amounts of ranges of motions in our joints, right? We don't need huge movements. So please be mindful of that. Also, practice loving kindness. Be kind to yourself. Don't do anything that is very unpleasant to you. Take a moment to rest and to take a break if you need to. And stay curious. Stay curious about your body, about how these movements affect you, what kind of sensations you have, and we'll do well. Okay, so without further ado, please join me in standing. Now, I will demonstrate these movements. I understand that some of you may look at me through your phone, so the picture is small. Then depend more on the descriptions. After we finish with the moving part, we will have questions and answers. And if there are some burning questions about something related to what we do, then we'll clarify it. So please stand. Stand comfortably with your feet underneath you, symmetrically. As you can see, I'm wearing shoes, and it's because one of the elements in my foot, in my ankle, is not working so well, so I have to accommodate on this floor. You are welcome to be barefoot, it's better. But if you have some arthritic joints in your legs and you don't like to be barefoot, please wear comfortable shoes, okay? So bring your attention to the way that you feel yourself standing. Notice, is it comfortable to stand for a little while? One of the aspects of standing is the pressure of our feet on the floor. How do we support center of mass on the ground? And if you listen, you may notice, oh, I'm standing a little bit more towards the front of my feet. Or you may notice, oh, I'm standing a little bit towards my heels. Or maybe you're somewhere in between. So make a little experiment of shifting the weight towards the front. Very small amount. If you look at me, if you can see me, movement towards the front of my feet is so small that you probably don't see me move. And then you come back to the middle, and then you move a little bit towards the heels, listening to the sensation of this pressure that can move from the back of your feet to the front of your feet. Please, as you do this, just be mindful of your breathing. Don't go so far that your breathing has to stop. Don't go so far where you feel something is contracting strongly in your... And then within your balance possibilities, just feel, oh, I can move a little forward, or I can move a little back, or I can be in between. Wonderful. Stop somewhere where you're comfortable. No matter where. And then look at the other element of standing. Just let yourself go down a little bit. How do we go down, right? The wonderful fact that we have joints in our legs, ankles, knees, and hips can allow for very gentle, small movement down and up. And listen, how do you use these three joints to do that? For some of you, it'll feel like, oh, I'm bending a lot in my knees and not so much in my hips. For some of you, it's more hips than knees. If you have some trouble with the knee and you cannot really bend it, you would go down using your hip joints more. And then listen how much movement happens in your ankles when you bend. And you just go down and go up. And there's a certain sensation and quality to how you do it. Just notice that. Wonderful. Stop. So that's standing symmetrically. We will explore more next time about this bending of the knees. Now, I'd like you to put one foot in front of the other. That's the second position we will use a lot, right? So now what happens? All of a sudden, we put our body into more of an asymmetrical position. Notice, what does it feel like? Right? So what can you pay attention to? Let's go to the feet. The pressure of your body on the floor again. How does your movement system support the weight, the center of mass, when the feet are asymmetrical? Feel you may be more on the back foot with your weight, with your pressure. You may be more on the front foot. Where are you? Few things about this position. You can, and I would like to invite you to, manipulate, change the distances. What does it mean? You can stand with the smaller step, front to back, really small, right? You can have a longer step. Really, there's no better or worse. You adjust for your comfort, okay? You can also change the width of your step. You can stand wider. And of course, the moment you try and do that, you feel it's a little bit more stable, a little bit more balanced. And then you can stand with a more narrow step, right? And of course, within this range, we all have habits, right? You will find yourself always stand wider or always usually stand more narrow. Some people, when I ask them to do that, right, they stand almost on a straight line. Notice what that feels like if you do that and how your balancing system kicks in and adjusts constantly, okay? So all of these parameters I gave you right now about the step, please use them to find more comfort. Another element that you may notice with this asymmetrical position is the turn of the pelvis. The moment we do something asymmetrical, so some of you may feel, oh, my pelvis now is facing a little bit to the side or the other side, or maybe it is forward. And just, I'm putting it on the map for now, you can just acknowledge where you are or begin to have a question about this. Okay, bring your feet symmetrically again. And then switch. Notice if you switch that position, other foot in front, how does it feel? Is it exactly the same as a moment ago? Or is this situation a little different? So again, you listen. What kind of step works for me? Do I want to be wider or more narrow? Do I want a longer step or shorter step? And then where is my weight? You feel yourself more on the back foot, more on the front foot. And we'll stay with that position, with this foot forward. And let's begin to find how we can move our center of mass with the knees more or less straight and with your feet on the ground. Can we come forward so that the pressure is more to the front foot? And then can you go back and have the pressure more on the back foot? Right? And just listen. How do you do that? What comes into your awareness, into your sensation about being able, or maybe it's difficult, right? So notice, oh, it's not so easy to bring my weight to the front. I would say shorten the length of the step and see, does it become a little bit easier now? Can you do that? Okay, switch, put the other foot in front, and let's experiment. Move your weight to the front foot, feet on the ground, knees straight, and then to the back foot. When you go to the front foot, what does it mean? How does it feel to, okay, I'm on the front foot right now. Pay attention to the weight, to the pressure, go towards the front of the front foot, which means ball of your front foot. Do you get there? Yeah? Just have a question. When you shift the weight backwards to the back foot, is the back heel now more on the ground, right? And maybe the pressure of the front foot is less, right? So that's one sensation you can look for when it comes to shifting the weight front to back. And then continue doing it, however you do it. And then be curious, have a question, how do I use my body to do it? So I'll give you a few options that are very common. For some of us, we use our upper body, right? So I can bring my head forward or my shoulders forward, and that can get me to the front of the front foot. And then I can kind of take my upper body back a little bit and move towards the back heel, right? For some of you, that may be a solution, right? To move the weight. For the others, the solution may be moving more of the lower body, right? So if you can see me, right? Taking the pelvis more side to side for some of us, or on diagonal, but it's the lower body, the hips, the pelvis that's kind of dancing underneath the head, and that can get me to between my front foot and my back foot. Right? You can try it with me, and then again, notice, is it my way? Is it not my way? What am I doing? Okay. Some other people I've seen do this, right, is that they kind of bring the belly forward. It's almost like the abdomen is the driver of the weight forward to the front foot. And then the pelvis kind of sticks back a little more, right? So it's more of a front to back movement. And then that can kind of be a solution with the conditions, the body that they have. And there's nothing wrong. Don't feel like, oh, I should not be doing it. Absolutely not. Our brain is brilliant in finding solutions according to the conditions that exist. And then, of course, we can begin to learn some other ways. And then finally, another way is to kind of move the whole body, the whole structure, so that you kind of lean almost from your ankles a little bit forward, and then check, does that bring me to the front of the front foot? And then bringing the whole system, the whole body from your ankles up, and bring the weight to the back heel. Yeah? So that's just another way. Good. Stop, stand a moment, and just listen to the sensation now back in the home position, right? Standing symmetrically, of the kind of the sensation, the experience of standing. And now I'd like to invite you to do a little walk around. Try and remember which foot you had forward and do a little bit of moving around, right? Just take yourself out of the standing position and do some walking. That's the way that we're going to kind of take breaks and interrupt the more focused elements of the class. If you feel like, oh, I want to sit down for a little bit, please feel free, okay? I didn't mention it before, but also if you're, right, if you feel now after trying this that you would like to have some kind of support so that you feel more balanced, bring the chair, rest the hand on the back of the chair or touch the wall, accommodate what your body needs in the moment. Okay, let's put the other foot forward, right? Switch. And then let's make the same kind of little experiments. So if you go to this movement of the weight, adjusting the step, I have to make it shorter to feel that I can easily do it. And then you move the weight forward and back and feel. Do it with the top of you. Do it with the belly. Listen, when you shift the weight, do you have a sense that your pelvis is moving more front to back, forward back, or more side to side? On the kind of a diagonal movement. And there are conditions that will predispose us to do one or the other. And then try this kind of forward back from your ankles movement. And notice, right? Front of the front foot, back heel. Now, for some of us, it's interesting the way that we solve the issue of shifting weight, especially if we tend to be a little wider on our feet and we use this diagonal side-to-side movement. You may feel that you'll actually never get to the front foot or the back heel, but you go more on the outer edges, right? You can try that kind of solution, right? So bringing the weight to the front foot, but feeling, oh, I'm kind of, or you can end up, you can have the experience of being more on the inside edge, depending on what's happening in the hip and higher up, right? So you see how many different solutions and elements exist. And we're going to experiment with all of them. Great. Stand a moment. And now the juicy part of the class today. Switch your feet. Stand with one foot in front, one behind. And we'll look into the movements of the ankles, right? As we said, this is a really important piece of our ability to move in gravity. So now we'll start with the front foot. So do the movement where you flex your ankle or lift the front of your front foot. And you feel that movement, right, creates action in the front foot, in the ankle. The heel stays on the ground and the front of the foot comes up. Again, remember, not about the range of motion. It's not important that you lift very high. But just do this movement and notice what happens to your stance. Many of you will feel that the weight begins to shift a little bit backwards, right? So allow that to happen and feel back and then forward again. Back and the forward again. If you need the shorter step to feel that movement back and forth, please do that. And then there's always a question when we move, when we do any kind of exercise and movement, what's happening with the breathing, right? So again, this is something we will address in later sessions. For now, I'd like you to just have the awareness, oh, I'm breathing or I'm not breathing when I do this. Can I find the option where I allow some movement in the torso, in the belly, in the back for breath? And now stop a moment, stay, pause in this position. Both knees are still straight. See if you can find yourself somewhere in between the 2 feet, right? So can you find a position where the weight is not all on the back, all on the front, but you're somewhere in the middle? And now without changing that situation, so stay with the weight the same way between the 2 points of support. Could you flex your ankle a little bit? So now I'm asking you to isolate. That's another important tool in the system, is being able to isolate a movement in one joint, right? Or specific joints. So if you lift the front of your front foot and flex your ankle without the weight shift, can you feel how that heel of the front foot is having to support your weight now? And do this several times. Notice yourself still breathe. Make it smaller, make adjustments so you can still breathe. Do this several times. We repeat the movement so the system can kind of register this. And then allow yourself to shift the weight and see, oh, is it a little bit clear that this flexion of the ankle is what can drive the mass over the back foot. Very good. Please stand symmetrically and notice the sensation just from doing that. Right? Is the experience of standing different? Some of you may feel, oh, I have a little more weight on that foot that I was moving. Or you feel the sense of the ankle a little bit more clearly. Put the other foot in front. Adjust the size of the step, always. Right? And notice now that front foot, a moment ago, is in the back. Is it different after doing this movement, having that foot in the back where the ankle is having to be bent slightly more just because of the position? Does it have a different flavor? And again, find yourself with the front foot and lift it several times, front of the front foot, not the whole foot. And feel, what's the response of your body? Right? You shift the weight, do you not shift the weight? What's changing, how it happens? Gather data. Check that the breath is free enough. And then find the place of standing between the 2 points of support. So not all the way in the front, not all the way in the back foot. Maintain it and begin to flex the front ankle, lifting the ball of your foot without shifting the weight. Notice the pressure of the front heel against the floor growing, right? Supporting you, and how that movement goes up into your hip joint a little bit, maybe. Good. And now allow yourself to move the weight to the back foot. And notice, do I feel that the flexing of my front ankle actually has a role in moving the weight to the back foot? Excellent. Stand a moment. Notice the sensation. Switch your feet. And now we will look at the back foot. Okay, maybe I'll stay here so you can see me if you're watching me. And now shift the weight somewhere where you're a little bit more forward, okay? And lift the back heel. Let's look at that element. Very important one. When you lift the back heel, feel the part of the foot that's pressing now is the ball of your back foot. Can you feel it? All the metatarsals, the toes may have some sensation in them. You're pushing off the back ball of the foot and lifting the heel. The calf muscle is activated. And now stay more towards the front foot, right? Your heel is up. And now could you find lowering the back heel with the weight still on the front leg? Is this something that is available? Lower the heel and then lift it again. How much? Not important. You do what you can do. Yeah, so how do you manage your body to stay more forward, but lift and lower the back heel? That's lovely. Allow the weight to come back to the back foot. And now feel lifting the heel, bringing yourself to the front leg, and then coming back. Forward, back. And again, can we sense that the push from the ball of your foot, lifting the heel, plays a role into the movement of the body weight forward? That's another very common thing, that in walking, we actually don't use this enough, right? That push from the back foot to bring ourselves forward. We pull ourselves forward. Can you practice this sensation of pushing to move forward? And then let's combine it with lifting the front foot and going back, front of your front foot, and then lifting the back heel to go forward. And lift the front foot and lift the back heel. And feel you're moving your center of mass over the 2 points of support. Excellent. Stand. Acknowledge the sensation. I'll turn around. Let's switch your feet. So switch, find a step that works for you. The knees are more or less straight. You're looking straight ahead easily. And shift your body weight forward and back, and find yourself a little bit more forward, right? We practiced that a moment ago. How do we stay on the front foot a little bit more? And now begin to lift the back heel and listen to that pressure of the ball of your back foot into the floor, the heel of the back foot lifting, the calf muscle mobilizing. And can you now find and do it so that you keep your weight on the front foot? Another very interesting thing here, if you maintain yourself forward, to lower that heel, can you feel you have to do something in your ankle? In that back ankle, you have to use that bending a little bit more. For some of you, it may be challenging. Make the step smaller. Lift and lower. Lift, feel the force going into the hip socket a little bit, and then lower that heel, staying a little forward. And then after a few movements, put the heel down and combine lifting the front of the front foot with the back heel. And how you can use your feet, use your ankles to shift the center of mass, shift your weight forward and back, which is the basis of our moving in gravity. Yeah? That upside down pendulum, the center of mass in our pelvis, right, can move from one foot to the other. And how are your feet, your ankles now helping you do that? Very good. Stand. Notice the sensation in standing. And please take yourself for a little walk around your space. And notice some of you may become aware of your knees bending a little bit easier, legs being tiny bit lighter, right? That's a sensation that for some of you, once you clarify a little bit your ankles, will be prominent. And just walk around, simply notice, enjoy. And please come one more time to the standing situation. And then let's go back to just lowering ourselves, bending the knees a little bit. And then coming up. And just see. Is there something new, different sensation about this little movement? Softening the knees, coming back up. Lovely. So that's our practice for today. I purposefully made it just half an hour so that we focus the session on just a few elements. Next time, my plan is, next Monday, is to work more on bending the knees, looking into the hips and how the pelvis comes into play in these two contexts. And then we'll gradually visit all the other parts of our body. Thank you for joining me. I will stop the recording. I hope to see you next time.